All right, happy Sabbath, everybody. Today is July 10, 2021, and we're still in the study about the sanctuary, specifically the restoration of the sanctuary during the time of Nehemiah. Remember last week we did the restoration of the gates, right? There was 10 gates that was restored, but there's 12 gates that was dedicated, all right? So we know those gates also represents the tribes of Israel. Remember, the 12 gates in heaven represents the 12 tribes of Israel. And so the gates of Jerusalem, 10 of them had to be restored and 12 were dedicated. You know, we can see that symbolizes the 10 lost tribes of Israel that was gathered again to join with the two, Judah and Benjamin, that have already been restored. And we know this is a type of what is going to happen in the end time, because Ephraim, which represents the 10 lost tribes of Israel, will be eventually joined with Judah, where Judah and Benjamin, right? These are the Gentiles who will join with those who have the sanctuary and keep the Sabbath, right? All right, and they will eventually be ruled by David. Spiritual David is actually Jesus. All right, so that's the gates of Jerusalem last week, right? 12 gates of Jerusalem. All right. Now we continue with Nehemiah, right? We go with Nehemiah and what he's doing while he's restoring the walls and the gates. All right. We'll go to the slide right here. Oh, before we go to the slide, we just review the slides last week. Remember the gates of Jerusalem: the sheep gate, fish gate, old gate, gate of Ephraim, valley gate, dung gate, fountain gate, water gate, horse gate, east gate, gate Mifkad, and then prison gate. All right, that's what we did last week. All right, okay, this is where we go now, and we'll go to the book Nehemiah, second chapter. Remember, in the first chapter, it was in the 9th month of the 20th year of Artaxerxes that he heard about the poor condition of the Jerusalem, and he was very sad, right? And he had to wait 4 months until the month of Nisan, right? Until the month of Nisan, still in the 20th year of Artaxerxes, that he eventually went to the king, right? All right, still in the 20th year. And moreover, I said unto the king, if it please the king, let letters be given me to the governors beyond the river, that they may convey me over till I come unto Judah, and a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make the beams of the gates of the palace which appertain to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my God upon me. Then I went to the governors beyond the river, and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent captains of the army and horsemen with me. So he went with a military escort. He had letters from the king, right? He went there prepared, right? Why did he go there all prepared? He had an army. He had letters for those to give him supply, right? He did not leave anything to chance, right? Even though he had faith that Jesus was going to help him, God was going to help him rebuild the temple, but he also had to have an effort. He had to prepare, right? Because he knew that there were enemies, Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, right? There were enemies ready to go up against him. So, to go into a battle, right? You can't just say, okay, the Lord's going to fight for me. I don't have to do anything. I still have to prepare, right? I still have to have a frame of mind. I have to have the provisions. I have to have, even a military escort, right? Even though I know that God will actually do all the work, right, for me, right? I will have to have a preparation, right? It is not by chance, right? Nothing, just happens by chance, right? Nehemiah did not regard his duty done when he had wept and prayed before the Lord, right? It's not just about weeping and praying. He united his petition with holy endeavor, putting forth earnest, prayerful efforts. He had an effort for the success of the enterprise in which he was engaged. Careful consideration and well-matured plans. He had to have effort, he had to have consideration, he had to have well-matured plans, are as essential to the carrying forward of sacred enterprise today, right? These things even apply to us today, right? We want to go country living. Do we just go there by faith and no effort? Oh, no problem. Jesus is going to keep us there. No. It takes a long time. It requires a lot of consideration, a lot of well-matured plans, right? Right? Even for our time. As in the time of the rebuilding of Jerusalem's walls, right? Right. His arrival in Jerusalem, however, with a military escort. He had to even go there with military escort, showing that he had come on some important mission. Excited the jealousy of the heathen tribes living near the city, who had so often indulged their enmity against the Jews by heaping upon them insult and injury and insult. Foremost, all right, there was a lot of enemies, but the foremost of the enemies were what? The chiefs of these tribes. There were many. Okay, we just say, okay, so what we're doing now on this today, what we're studying is the enemies of Nehemiah, right? Last week we were studying about the walls of the city and the gates of the city, right? But now we're going to study about the enemies. And foremost, remember there's a lot of enemies, but foremost are the threefold leaders, Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, right? Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, right? Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, and Geshem the what? The Arabian, all right? Yeah, right. Okay, these are not just regular people. These are actually prophetically significant, right? Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem the Arabian, right? Okay. All right. Threefold enemy, right? The foremost of all the enemies are the threefold enemies. All right. Okay. And we continue in Nehemiah 2. So I came to Jerusalem and was there 3 days. So when he arrived, he waited for 3 days and arose in the night, and I had a few men with me in the night. Neither told I any man what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. Neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon. And the rulers knew not whether I went or what I did. Neither had I as yet told it to the Jews, nor to the priests, nor to the nobles, nor to the rulers, nor to the rest that did the work. So what did he do? At nighttime, he went in secret with just a few men, right? He did not tell anybody, right? And what did he do? He inspected the walls and the gates, right? The thing about it is, when you look at where he actually went, he went on the southwestern. He did not encircle the whole city. He only just went to the southwestern and the southeastern, just on the lower part, right? That's all he went, right? He did not look at the whole place, right? But he had an idea of how bad the situation was. What his goal was to find out what the situation was. He had to see for himself the situation, right? On the third night after his arrival, Nehemiah rose at what?
Midnight.
At midnight. Wow. Now the Bible said it was night, but Ellen White added something else. It was not just night, but it was midnight. Obviously this is important, right? Because he only went with a few trusted companions, went out to view for himself the desolation of Jerusalem. Mounted on his mule, he passed from one part of the city to another, surveying the broken down walls and the gates of the city of his fathers. Painful reflections filled the mind of the Jewish patriot. With sorrow-stricken heart, he gazed upon the ruined defenses of his beloved Jerusalem. Right? So he went with only a few trusted companions, and nobody else knew what he was doing. Not the priests, not the rulers, not the nobles, not anybody else of the Jews. Right? In secrecy and silence, Nehemiah completed his circuit of the walls. All right, he did the circuit, but only on the southern part. The remainder of the night he spent in prayer, for he knew that the morning would call for earnest effort to rouse and unite his dispirited and divided countrymen. Right? In the nighttime, at midnight, he went there alone. Only with a few men in secrecy. Right? At midnight, the work is done in secrecy, right? Not very many people know about what's going on at midnight, right? But we know that they had to find out the true situation was what was going on, right? Because in the morning is when they had to let the other people know, right? They had to let the other people know. It had to be done in secrecy and in silence at midnight. Right? So this shows also our work at midnight. Right? What happens at work at midnight? Nehemiah's hearers did not know, neither did he tell them of his midnight circuit. Right? It is important here. It is midnight. But the fact that he had made this circuit contributed greatly to his success. For he was able to speak of the condition of the city with an accuracy and a minuteness that astonished his hearers. They said, "Who are you? You just came from Shushan in Persia, and you know exactly what is going on, the situation." The impression made upon him as he had looked upon the weakness and degradation of Jerusalem gave earnestness and power to his words. What does it do? You have a message, and what happens with that message? It is empowered. Okay, what does that mean? Just like the three angels' message, right? You're giving the three angels' message, but you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to know exactly what is going on, so that when you give it, what happens? That message is empowered. The three angels' messages, each of them has to be empowered. And how is it empowered? Because you know what is going on. You know the true condition. You have done your homework. You have seen the layout of the land and the condition of what is happening, right? And when you know what you're talking about, it will empower your words, right? The three angels' messages also have to be empowered, right? Okay. Who were the first ones that he had to convince and became convinced? Among the first to catch Nehemiah's spirit of zeal and earnestness were the who? Were the priests. Who had gone back? Who had gone back to rebuild the temple with Ezra? The priest, the Levites, and the Nethinims. But who was the first one to catch the zeal and earnestness? It was the priest. Because of their influential position, these men could do much to advance or hinder the work, and their ready cooperation at the very outset contributed not a little to its success. The majority of the leaders also worked with them, except for the nobles of the Tekoites. We'll do this a little bit later, right? So there were people, right? Not all the leaders were with them. Yeah, there were some of the leaders of the Tekoites that did not join, right? There were a few, the Tekoite nobles, who put not their necks to the work of the Lord. The memory of those slothful servants is branded with shame and has been handed down as a warning to all future generations. Remember, there are people who are not going to join, and these are even the leaders, right? The nobles of the Tekoites. They did not join. And remember, this is a warning for our time, right? There's going to be leaders who will not going to want to join, all right? Okay. Okay. We continue in Nehemiah 2. Then said I unto them. Now this is when he had seen the condition of the walls and the gates. And then in the morning time, he went to the Jews, right? To all the children of Judah. Then I said I unto them, ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates therefore are burned with fire. Come and let us build up the walls of Jerusalem, that we be no more a reproach. Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, and also the king's word that had been spoken unto me. And they said, let us rise up and build, right? This was first the priests, and then everybody else. It was first the priest. But then what happened? When the enemies heard. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, and Gershen the Arabian heard it, what did they do? They mocked the children, right? Those who wanted to rebuild. They laughed us to scorn and despised us and said, what is this thing that ye do? Will ye rebel against the king? All right. What was the first thing that they said? What is their accusation here? What is this called? Are you going to rebel against the king? What is this called? What is this called? Are you going to rebel against the king? What kind of...
I forgot the words.
What is called sedition, right? They are accused of sedition. Remember who's accused of sedition? Who else is accused of sedition? Jesus is accused of sedition, right? Are you going to be the king of the Jews and rise up against the Romans? They said that you want to be the king, right? They accused Jesus of sedition, right? Jesus was going to rebuild his own body. He was going to rebuild the temple. He was going to rebuild his own body. But in the process, he was accused of sedition. Yeah, right. Sedition. Okay. So there's an accusation of sedition. But then he answered Nehemiah to them and said to them, the God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we, his servants, will arise and build. But you, enemies of this rebuilding, have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. You have nothing. We are not going to let you build with us, right? You have nothing, right? It is only us that will be able to rebuild. Okay, right? Remember, it was the the nobles of the Tekoites that did not join, right? Who was the foremost? Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. And who else did not join? Is the nobles of the Tekoites. We find that in Nehemiah 3, verse 3 to 5. Right? And next unto them the Tekoites repaired, but their nobles put not their necks to the work of their Lord. Right? Right here in the Bible it says, the nobles of the Tekoites. Right? All right. We'll summarize all the enemies, right? But it was the nobles of the Tekoites, right? And they happened to be working with Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, among others, right? There's many that were building in this area, but it was Meshullam, the son of Berechiah. Okay, I put this down because Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, is rather significant. He's significant, being that he not only repaired the fish gate, right? The Tekoites repaired the fish gate. Also, Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, they also the fish gate, right? And the Tekoites supposed to rebuild the nobles of the Tekoites are supposed to rebuild the fish gate, but they did not do it, right? The nobles of the Tekoites. Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, not only rebuilt the fish gate, but he also rebuilt the east gate. Okay, we'll get to that, right? We'll get to that. But not only that, there's another significance of Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, right? We'll get to that later, right? Just remember, Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, okay? And the Tekoites, they were repairing the fish gate, right? But the nobles of the Tekoites did not want to join, okay? All right. There has to be some significance to this, right? Okay, we'll continue. The builders on the wall were soon beset by more active opposition. They were compelled to guard continually against the plot of the sleepless adversaries. The emissaries of the enemy endeavored to destroy their courage by circulation of false reports. Oh, okay, you're going to rebel. Conspiracies were formed on various pretexts to draw Nehemiah into their toils. The false-hearted Jews, now there are Jews also. Not only Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, but also false-hearted Jews were found ready to aid in the treacherous undertaking. Again, the report was spread that Nehemiah was plotting a rebellion against the Persian monarch, intending to exalt himself as king over Israel, and that all that aided him were traitors. Okay, this is an false accusation of sedition, right? Emissaries of the enemy, professing friendliness, mingled with the builders, suggesting changes in the plan, seeking in various ways to divert the attention of the workers, to cause confusion and perplexity, and to arouse distrust and suspicion. And the plans formed for the advancement of the work were reported by these spies to the enemies. So what they do, they go among there were the Jews that went among them and started, saying, oh, this plan is not good. You have to change the plan, causing confusion and distrust and suspicion. And what did they do? They sent back their reports to who? To the leaders, to Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. So they were like spies. They're like wolves in sheep clothing, right? These were the false-hearted Jews, right? So the enemies were not only out from outside, it's also from within. And from within is even more treacherous, right? Right. This is what happens. This is the one that is famous. When Sanballat heard that we built the wall, he was wroth and took great indignation and mocked, right? He mocked the Jews. And he spake before his brethren and the army of Samaria. So he was the leader of the army of Samaria. He was a leader, right? And Tobiah, the Ammonite, right, was actually used to be a slave, right? So Sanballat said, "What do these feeble Jews? Will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in a day? Will they revive the stones out of heaps of rubbish? These stones are like rubbish," right? These stones are like rubbish, all right? And then what did Tobiah say? This is the one that's famous, right? Right. "Even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall," because it's like made out of rubbish, right? Yeah. So they were mocking. There's a mocking. Remember, there's a mocking. Always there's a mocking. And what's going to happen to those who mock? There's a mocking at the time of Jesus, when Jesus was on the cross. There's a mocking of Elisha. There's a mocking. Mocking comes, right? Mocking becomes before the time of the end. Those who mock will eventually be the one who is destroyed at the close of probation, all right? The mocking is very significant, right? There's always a mocking. Okay. "So built we the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof, for the people had a mind to work." So all the breaches have now been repaired, right? But it was only built halfway up. "But it came to pass that Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabians, and the Ammonites, and the Ashdodites," right? So there are more than just Sanballat, Tobiah. Tobiah was an Ammonite, right? He was the leader of the Ammonite. He used to be a servant. And the Arabians, what? Gershen, the Arabians. But also they're the Ashdodites. Ashdodites, right? Where is Ashdod? Ashdod is a city of the Philistines. The Philistines, all right? So there were the Arabians, there were the Ammonites, there were the Ashdodites, the Philistines. Heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up, that the breaches began to be stopped, that they were very wroth, right? And they conspired, right? They made conspiracies, all right? They made conspiracies to come and fight against Jerusalem, right? "Nevertheless, we made our prayer." So what did they do? They depended on prayer. "To set a watch against them and day and night." And what did they do? They not only just prayed, what did they do? They watched day and night, 24/7, right? They had a watch. They had to watch and pray, right? Watch and pray. This is what happens to who had to watch and pray? The disciples of Jesus say, watch and pray, right? You got to watch and pray, right? Who are supposed to watch and pray? There's the wise virgins are the ones who watch and pray, right? Okay, watching and praying. Remember we did that? Watching and praying, right? It's the wise virgins. Okay. "Those who were restoring the defenses of Jerusalem did not go forward in the work unmolested. Satan was busy stirring up opposition and creating discouragement. The principal agents were Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. These idolaters had exulted in the feebleness and defenseless condition of the Jews, and had mocked their religion, and ridiculed their devastated city. And the work of a rebuilding wall was entered upon, with envenomed zeal set themselves to hinder the undertaking. To accomplish this, they attempted to cause division among the workmen by suggesting doubts and arousing unbelief. They ridiculed the efforts of the builders, declaring the enterprise to be an impossibility and predicting a disgraceful failure. They did everything, right? They caused division. They caused them to doubt. They said it is never going to be finished, right? This is what Sanballat, Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem did, right? But what did the Jews did? All right, and there's another one of these false-hearted Jews. His name was Judah. And Judah said, "The strength of the bearers of burden is decayed, and there is much rubbish." All right, there is much rubbish, so that we are not able to build the wall. And our adversary said, "They shall not know, neither see, till we come in the midst among them, and slay them, and cause the work to cease." there's going to be, our adversaries are going to come against us. And it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them came, they said unto us 10 times, from all the places when we shall return unto them, they will be upon you. Okay, our enemies are going to come against us. And who were these Jews? And Judah is one of the leaders, right? And the others, the Jews which dwelt by. Who are the Jews that dwelt by? The Jews that did not want to work, right? They made all kinds of excuses why they cannot work, right? Because they're going to be attacked, right? So what did they show? That they were afraid, okay? Right? So there's people who are going to be afraid, who do not have faith, who are not going to rebuild, okay? This reminds me of a story. Remember, there's one of the leaders of Israel said, okay, we have enemies and we got to fight them. Let's go fight them. But then he says, oh, you know what? For those who are afraid, you do not have to come and join us. You can go home, right? And 22,000 of them went home because they had all kinds of excuses why they cannot join an army. You know, like, I just got married. And you know what? I just built a house. Who was it that said, if you're afraid, go home? Who was it? It's the story of Gideon, right? Those who are afraid, do not come and join us. These are the Jews who were afraid, right? And they did not join with Nehemiah. You know, we're going to see that the story of Gideon has multiple instances where it's parallel with the story of Nehemiah, right? Those who are afraid, don't come and join us. Go home, right? Do not join in fighting what? The enemy, right? All right. Okay. 22,000 went home and left only 10,000, right? Remember that story, right? Gideon and those that he called, right? At the same time that the Samaritans were plotting against Nehemiah and his work, some of the leading men among the Jews became disaffected, sought to discourage him by exaggerating the difficulties attending the enterprise. The strength of the bearers of the burden is decayed, they said, and there is much rubbish so that we are not able to build the wall. Here, they had all kinds of excuses why they cannot rebuild the wall. They were afraid, right? Discouragement came from still another source, the Jewish which dwelt by, those who were taking no part in the work, right? The Jewish who dwelt by. Those who do not have their hands dirty are the ones that have all kinds of what? Of theories of why the work will fail. Right? Those who are not actually working are the ones who have the biggest theories of why the work will fail. Right? But those who have their hands dirty, those who are actually working, are the ones that have to have faith, right? Because there's going to be a lot of distractions, a lot of what? A lot of misinformation, a lot of reasons why this endeavor will fail, right? These people who did not have their hands dirty gathered up statements and reports of their enemies and used these to weaken courage and create disaffection, right? So what did they do? I don't have to read the whole all these verses, but we know what happened, right? So Nehemiah says, okay, everybody has to be ready 24/7, and we have to do it in shifts, right? There's those who guard the nighttime and those who guard the daytime. They have to do it in shifts. Those who live outside of the walls, you know what? You can't stay outside of the walls, right? Because when you're trying to come to work, you're going to be harassed by your enemies. So you have to stay inside the walls, right? So you don't have to be traveling, right? We need to have shifts of those who work. And what else? How did they work? They work with one hand, and with the other they what? They held a weapon, right? They which builded on the wall, and they that bear burdens with those that laid it. Everyone with one of his hands wrought the work, and with the other hand held a weapon, right? For the builders, everyone had his sword girded by his side, and so builded. And he that sounded the trumpet was by me. Does this sound like the story of Gideon? One wall, one with one hand and the other one holding a weapon. You know, after Gideon sent 22,000 go home because you're afraid, right? He only had 10,000 left. And then how did he test these 10,000 to become only 300? He said what? Go to the water and drink. And how did he test them? The ones who knelt on one knee and scooped up the water with one hand, what? And drank and lapped like a dog, because his other hand was what? Had his weapon. So he drank with one hand and his other hand had a weapon. Those who are ready 24/7. Yeah. But those who actually what? Who actually kneeled with their knees into the water and drank with their mouth in the stream, says, all of you go home. Only those who are always ready, 24/7 ready, one hand with a weapon and the other hand drinking, right? This is just like the story of Nehemiah, right? 24/7 on shifts, all the time ready, right? One hand working to rebuild and the other hand with a sword, right? These are those people, right? Just like Gideon, just like Nehemiah, right? Yeah. They know that God will work for them, but they also had to do their own effort, right? They have to have an effort on their part, right? And remember, was there a trumpet during the time of Gideon? Oh yeah, there was a trumpet that blew, right? There's a trumpet. Okay. That Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me, saying, all right, come, let us meet together. So Sanballat and Geshem sent letters, right? And they says, okay, come and meet us in the villages in the plain of Ono, right? And he did that 4 times. Sent letters to Nehemiah, meet us in the village of the plain of Ono. But did Nehemiah want to go and meet with them? No. So Sanballat sent another letter, right? Sanballat, his servant, was sent unto me in like manner the 5th time with an open letter. Now it was an open letter in his hand, wherein was written, it is reported among the heathen, and Gashmu. Gashmu is actually Geshem. Gashmu is another word for Geshem. I had to look it up, right? It's like Geshem. It is reported among the heathen, and Gashmu said it, that thou and the Jews think to rebel. For which cause thou buildest the wall, that thou mayest be their king, according to these words. And then they accuse them again of sedition, right? In an open letter. so that everybody can read it. But did Nehemiah fall for this? No. Right? Nehemiah says, first of all, the accusation is false, and besides, it is an open letter. Right? I do not believe this. This is a trick. Right? This is a trick. There's no such thing done as thou sayest, but thou faintest them out of thine own heart. For they all made us afraid, saying, their hands shall be weakened from the work, that they be not done. Now therefore, O God, strengthen my hands. He said he did not fall for this. Right? Yeah. And look at, there's another, what did the enemies do? Afterward I came unto the house of Shemaiah, the son of Delaiah, the son of Mehetabel, who was shut up and said, let us meet together in the house of God. Okay, so there's another Jew, right? His name is Shemaiah. There's a lot of Shemaiahs in the Bible, and there's several Shemaiahs actually rebuilding the wall. But this Shemaiah says, let us meet together in the house of the Lord within the temple, and let us shut the doors of the temple, for they'll come and slay thee. Yea, in the night they will come to slay thee. He said, you are going to be killed. Let's go hide. Let's go hide together in the temple. Right? Did Nehemiah fall for this? No. Why? Because Nehemiah knew that God will not let these people kill him. Right? It's not going to happen. Right? Why should he be afraid of these people killing him? He had faith in God. Right? And he said, I'm not going to meet you, because they will not kill me, right? Yeah. Should such a man as I flee? Who is there that being as I am would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. And lo, I perceive that God has not sent him, for he pronounced this prophecy against me, for Tobiah and Sanballat had what? Had hired him. So Sanballat and Tobiah had hired a Jew, yeah, to distract Nehemiah, right? To come into the house, and the house of God, and show a lack of faith, right? Show a lack of faith. My God, think thou upon Tobiah and Sanballat according to these works, and on the prophetess Noadiah and the rest of the prophets that would have put me in fear. Not only Shemaiah was used and hired by Sanballat and Tobiah, but there were also other who made prophecies. And there was others who made prophecies and tried to put him in fear. Oh boy. Okay. All right. People who were either studying prophecies and making prophecies actually put the workers in fear. Okay? This is amazing. Wow. There's people claiming prophecies, which actually is against the work of God, right? Yeah. Moreover, in those days, the nobles of Judah sent many letters unto Tobiah, and the letters of Tobiah came upon them. So what did they? The nobles of Judah sent letters, right? Oh, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. They wanted to tell, right, of the progress of the work. They sent it to Tobiah. They sent letters to Tobiah. For there were many in Judah sworn unto him. Many were actually sworn unto Tobiah. Because what? He was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Ara. Okay, Tobiah was very good. He actually married what? He actually married a Jew, right? He was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Ara. Not only that, his son Johanan, the son of Tobiah, had taken the daughter of who? Of who? Meshullam, the son of Berechiah. Who's Meshullam, the son of Berechiah? He was the builder of the fish gate, right? His daughter married Tobiah's son. So Meshullam and Tobiah were in-laws. Wow. And Tobiah married the daughter of Shemaiah. All right? And these people who had made family relations now with the enemy became sworn unto them. Now came on their side. Right? Wow. Look at this. Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, right? Meshullam, the son of Berechiah. What did he rebuild? The fish gate and the east gate. Those who are supposed to be proclaiming the east gate. What's the east gate? What does the east gate represent? The coming of Jesus, right? They are supposed to be repairing the east gate. They're supposed to repair where Jesus is supposed to come in through. They actually married heathens. They let their daughters married, all right? They let their daughters marry heathens, right? They swore, they became in-laws with the enemies. Wow. And then what's the fish gate? He's supposed to repair the fish gate. The fish gate is a representation of the disciples. This is the 12 disciples that Jesus called. This is like the 144,000. They are supposed to be proclaiming the 144,000 and the coming of Jesus. Instead, they let their daughters marry the enemies. Wow. Okay. All right. So we see they had to work 24/7 in shifts. They had to have one hand with working and the other hand with a sword. They had to keep themselves away from those who were afraid, right? And they had to repair, even though some of them who even was repairing were actually had family relations and swore to the enemies. All right? Yeah. They had this was not an easy undertaking, right? It was not easy. They had so many enemies. All right? They had so many enemies. All right. So now let's look at when did they finish? Nehemiah 6, verse 15 and 16. So the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month Elul. The month Elul is actually the 6th month of the ecclesiastical year of the Hebrew calendar. It's in the month of Elul. In how many days? 52 days. How long did it take them to finish rebuilding the wall when Nehemiah came? 52 days. Less than 2 months. It took less than 2 months, right, to finish it. On where? Now it says the 25th day of Elul, which is the 25th day of the 6th month, right? Remember, this is the 20th year, right? The 20th year started with Nisan, actually, the 20th year of Jewish reckoning of the reign of Artaxerxes. In the 9th month, which is Chislu, Nehemiah heard about the news, right? He heard about the news and he was very sorry, right? And his countenance was changed. And then 4 months later was when he took up the courage to actually ask the king, okay, king, can I go back and rebuild Jerusalem? And Artaxerxes says, okay, go ahead. You go back and I will send you a military escort and I will send you letters so that you can get all the timber that you need and then you go back. All right? Okay. Right. This is in the 20th year. And when did Ezra go? Ezra went in the 7th year of Artaxerxes. The first day of the first month, he came out of Babylon. He had to wait for 3 days. And on the third day, he had to wait. And then he had to call the Levites and the Nethinims. And on the 12th day, he proceeded from Ahava, then eventually arrived in Jerusalem on the first day of the 5th month, right? We know all of this, right? So we put this on a timeline, and we see that it's actually, 13 years. 13 years apart. Okay. Let's put that in another. I put this, this is the other slide. This is from 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? This is what happened in 457 BC. The first day of the first month, and they arrived 4 months later on the first day of the 5th month, right? Okay, first day, Ezra came out on the first day of the first month. He waited 3 days in Ahava, and then he called his brothers, the Levites, and also the Nethinims, right? Right. He was a priest. He called his Levites, brothers, the Levites, and the Nethinims, right? And he left on the 12th day, right? So he left on the 12th day. So if he left on the 12th day and he arrived in the first day of the 5th month, how long does it take to walk from Babylon to Jerusalem? How long does it take? About 3.5 months, right? 3.5 months. Now, all of this had to fit all together. We see that everything has to fit together for Nehemiah also, because Nehemiah basically had to come out of Shushan and travel to Jerusalem, right? Okay, this is, this is not 4445. This should be 445 and 444 BC. 444 BC. Sorry, I'm going to have to change this, right? Okay, this is the line of Nehemiah now, the time of Nehemiah, right? What month was it that he heard about the news about the terrible conditions in Jerusalem? What month was it? It's the 9th month, right? As the month of Chislu in the 9th month. And that was actually 445. But it's already the 20th year of Artaxerxes. 4 months later, in the month of Nisan, which is the first month, right? Now that's 444 BC. He asked the king, and now the king gave him provisions. This is, how long is this? From the 9th month to the first month? That's 4 months. Right? This is 4 months. Right? Now he asked provisions. And then the provisions were given. Right? The provisions were given. So the provisions were given, and then now he's ready to walk to Jerusalem. And it takes about 3.5 months. Right? Eventually, he finishes the building of the gates and the walls on what date? The 25th day of the 6th month, right? 25th day of the 6th month, which is called Elul. And that's how many days did it take for him to rebuild? 52 days. Okay, that's 52 days, all right? Remember, that's 52 days. It takes him 52 days to rebuild, all right? So if you go back 52 days, I had to go back to the Hebrew calendar and count. He actually started rebuilding on the 3rd day of the 5th month for him to rebuild 52 days. But remember, he arrived and he stayed for 3 days, and at midnight of the 3rd day, then he told the people that he had gone, and then he went and surveyed the walls and the gates, right? And the next morning was then when he admonished them to start rebuilding, right? Okay, so we have a 3 right in front there. There's a 3 right there. Okay, if this is the first month, and then he started rebuilding around the 3rd day of the 5th month, right? It fits perfectly. Because it takes about, if this is the first month, then 3.5 months before the third day of the fifth month would be somewhere in the middle of the first month. Somewhere in the middle of the first month, he would start walking, and he would arrive in the beginning or the end of the fourth month. The end of the fourth month, right? If he start walking in the middle of the first month, and he walks for 3.5 months, he would arrive at the end of the fourth month. And in 3 days' time, it would be the third day of the fifth month, right? This is why the 3.5 will fit right here. The 3.5 months of walking, right, will fit right here, right? And the night time of the third day is, Ellen White calls what? Midnight. It's midnight. It's midnight, right? Here is also midnight. Here's midnight. This is the fifth day of the fourth month. Here is midnight. Here's also midnight. Okay. You know, I just put this together. It's not that I've actually broken down and just tried to see what is the meaning of all this. How does it apply to our timeline? You know, this is the three angels' messages was given here. And this is probably the fourth angel's message. But there's another midnight. Midnight for who? Midnight for, you know, so, you know, the next time I go through this again is probably when I develop this a little further. I just put this for now, just to put it on the record, I guess, just to put it there. Right? But there's another midnight right here, right? This is another midnight. Okay, right? And it all fits because there's 3.5 months of walking, right? There's 4 months. Do you see another 4 months here? Here are 4 months, right? There's a 4 months right there. There's 4 months here. There's 4 months here. There's 3. There's a 3. There's a 3. There's a 3. Okay, all right. But anyway. Right? We'll have to review this and see what it all means. You know, eventually, I think the light will be gathered more, and we'll find out what all means. All right. But all this as prophetic chiastic structures. Right? Those who are not brave enough, those who do not have faith. Those who are afraid do not join in rebuilding, right? Those who are not ready 24/7 with one hand on the work and one hand holding a sword, right? They are not going to join, right? There's a trumpet that blows, right? The story of Nehemiah, all right? And how many enemies does Gideon have? How many enemies does Gideon have? Right. Nehemiah has 3 principal enemies, right? Sanballat, Tobiah, and Gershen, the Arabians. How many enemies does Gideon have? How many enemies? There were a lot of enemies. But they were from who? 3 nations, all right? 3 nations. Okay, we'll do that. Okay. All right, we'll see the 3 enemies of Sanballat. Sanballat is actually H557, a Persian satrap of Samaria, all right? Sanballat the Horonite. Horonite is actually a cave in Choronaim, a place of Moab. Right? And who's Moab? I put this already. Who's Moab? Moab is the incestuous son of Lot, the product of an incestuous relationship between Lot and his oldest daughter. That's Moab. So Sanballat also represents a false marriage. somehow, right? Right? False marriage. Right? He's a leader. He's a satrap, right? He's a Persian satrap of Samaria. He's one of the leaders. Okay, what about Tobiah? What about Tobiah? Tobiah is the servant, right? And he's a Ammonite. Who's Ammon? Who's Ammon? Tobiah is the goodness of Jah. He is an Ammonite. Ammon is the other son of Lot by the second daughter. Is the product of an incestuous relationship, right? It's a product of an incestuous relationship between Lot and his daughter, right? So Sanballat is a symbol of a false marriage also. Tobiah is also a symbol of a false marriage, all right? And Tobiah became son-in-law of Shemaiah. Tobiah married into the family of the Jew. He married the daughter of Shemaiah. And his son married the daughter of Meshullam, who is the builder of the East Gate and the Fish Gate. Right, they're Jewish, right? Jews. So we have to see these are the enemies of the builders of the builders of Jerusalem. Now, and you know what? This is actually what's going to happen in the end time. There's going to be all kinds of enemies. And these enemies, we will see their characters, right? Their characters will be like Sanballat, Tobiah, and who's Geshem?
Arabian.
He's an Arabian, right? Geshem or Gashmu is a shower or rain. He's the Arabian. Arabian means sterility, the country east of Palestine. He's an Arabian, right? These are the three principles: Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. And Geshem is an Arabian, all right? Okay. And who else? They're Ashdodites. Ashdodite is a city in Ashdod, a city in Philistine. And the nobles of the Tekoites, the inhabitants, it's a city in Judah, which means trumpet. They're supposed to rebuild the fish gate, but the leaders of the Tekoites do not join, right? They're supposed to be rebuilding the fish gate, right? And then remember, Judah was a Jewish leader who sent letters to Tobiah, against the Jews, right? And the Jews who dwelt by, those who were not working, who do not want to work, Judah said, it's too difficult. It's like rubbish, It's too difficult to rebuild, right? The Jews who dwelt by, those who are not working to rebuild, they exaggerate the difficulties, right? They were afraid. These were the Jews who were afraid. These like those who were called by the Gideon, those who were afraid, go home. Don't come and join, right? And then Shemaiah, he was hired by Sanballat and Tobiah to lure Nehemiah to the temple, right? And the prophetess Noadiah and the rest of the prophets, those who were prophesying false prophecies, right? So we'll see, the enemies are from within and without, right? And those who are afraid, those who are making false prophecies, those who are not prepared all the time, those who are not watching and praying, right? Those who are not watching and praying are the what? Are the foolish virgins, right? The foolish virgins. Okay. The experience of Nehemiah is repeated in the history of God's people in this time. Those who labor in the cause of truth will find that they cannot do this without exciting the anger of its enemies. Though they have been called of God to the work in which they are engaged, and their course is approved of Him, they cannot escape reproach and derision. They will be denounced as visionary, unreliable, scheming, hypocritical, anything. In short, that they will suit the purpose of their enemies. The most sacred things will be represented in a ridiculous light to amuse the ungodly. The very small amount of sarcasm and low wit, united with envy, jealousy, impiety, and hatred, is sufficient to excite the mirth of the profane scoffer. And these presumptuous jesters sharpen one another's ingenuity and embolden each other in their blasphemous work. Contempt and derision are indeed painful to human nature. Wow. When people are talking bad about you, all these things, Ellen White has is very flowery words, right? Wow, this is amazing. And that's essential. Wow, when somebody talks bad about you, are you sad? Is it going to be painful to your human nature? Yes. But they must be endured, You have to endure all these things by all who are true to God. It is the policy of Satan thus to turn souls from doing the work which the Lord has laid upon them. Okay? All these things actually have been designed by Satan to make you lose faith in the work, to think that it's too hard, to make you afraid, to make you not, watch and pray, right? All these things were designed by Satan, right? To use the enemies of Nehemiah, to use the enemies of who? To use the enemies of Gideon, right? And who are the enemies of Gideon? Who are the enemies of Gideon? The Midianites, the Amalekites, and and who? The Midianites, the Amalekites, and what? Gershen the Arabian are the children of the east. Wow. And where were they gathered? Where were they all gathered? In the valley of Jezreel, which is by the hill of Moreh. Okay, so the three enemies of Gideon, which is the Midianites, the Amalekites, and the children of the east. Who's the children of the east? The Arabians. All right. Gershen was an Arabian. The threefold enemy includes Islam. Right? The children of the east. And where they pitched? In the valley of Jezreel, which is by the hill of Moreh, in the valley. But how were they destroyed? Because it's not Gideon that destroyed them. Gideon only blew the trumpet, and the 300 blew their trumpet, and they broke their pitchers, and they shined their lights, and confused all the enemies. And what did the enemies do? They killed each other. Right? It's not Gideon that did the work. It was God that did the work. Right? Right. Okay, so where's the valley of Jezreel and the hill of Moreh? Right? Where did Gideon fight? Where did Gideon fight the Midianites, the Amalekites, and the children of the east? Where did Gideon do all that? Let's look at this, the valley of Jezreel. Right? And here's the valley. I don't know if you can see this. This is the valley of Jezreel, right? And here's the hill of Moreh, right? And this is called the plain of Megiddo. The plain of Megiddo, right? Not far from the Mount Carmel. This is Mount Carmel. This is the plain of Megiddo. And the plain of Megiddo is between two bodies of water. What's the two bodies of water? Mediterranean and what? Galilee, right? The plain of Megiddo is between two bodies of water, right? The Mediterranean and Galilee, right? It's also called the Valley of Jezreel, near the hill of Moreh, and this is where the Amalekites, the Midianites, and the children of the east were gathered, right, to fight against Gideon. All right. Remember, this is also near Mount Carmel, right? It's not far from Mount Carmel, right? What's the significance of Valley of Megiddo? Valley of Megiddo is not only where Gideon won the battle of Megiddo is where Megiddo, but it's also where another king went to fight, where there's a big fight between the Assyrians and the Egyptians. And the Lord says, don't go and join that fight. There's going to be a fight between the king of the north and the king of the south, but don't join that fight. But this king, who used to be very faithful, he decides that he's going to join. And then he went and joined that fight. And what happened? What happened to that king? What happened to that king? He was hit by an arrow. An arrow is shot by who? By an archer. Right? Who was the first archer? Ishmael is the first archer. You see the what? The children of the east. You see Gershen the Arabian. You see Joshua was hit by an arrow in the battle of Megiddo. Right? All these things line up all together. Right? Showing what? Showing the battle of Megiddo. Right? The battle of Megiddo is actually in Revelation 16, right? It was during the sixth angel that poured his vial and dried up the river of Euphrates so the kings of the east may come. This is spiritually, Medo-Persia is going to come and attack Babylon, right? And attack Babylon. Because Babylon is represented by what? By the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet, right? The dragon, the beast, and the false prophet, right? The threefold enemy of God's people in the end time. They will come to the sixth plague, and they will come and gather together in a place called, in the Hebrew tongue, what? Armageddon. G6717. What does Armageddon mean? Armageddon in the Jewish tongue means Har Megiddo, the Mount of Megiddo, right? And this is the place where Gideon won against his threefold enemies, the Amalekites, the Midianites, and the children of the east, right? The threefold enemy in the end time will be the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. And this is not far from Mount Carmel, right? Where Elijah had to face the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet, right? At Mount Carmel. Remember? Who's the dragon during the time of Elijah? Who's the dragon? Ahab is the dragon. Who's the beast? Jezebel, right? And who's the false prophet who danced? Right? The prophets of the grove and the prophets of Baal, right? And okay, that's Elijah. Who's the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet during the time of John the Baptist? The dragon is Herod. Who's the beast? Who's the wife? Herodias.
Yes.
Right? Herodias. Did Herod actually want to kill John the Baptist? No. It was Herodias that wanted to kill. Right. Yeah. But then who did Herodias tell to dance in front of the dragon of Herod? Salome. Right? Salome. So who's the false prophet? Salome. Salome danced in front of the dragon to compel the dragon to do the work of the beast. Alright? Right. And the beast is what? An apostate church. Right? And the dragon is what? The kings of the earth. Right? The kings of the earth. Okay, who's the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet during the tribunals of Jesus? Who's the dragon? Who's the dragon at the tribunal of Jesus?
Rome.
Right, yeah. Who is it? Who is the dragon? Right, the kings.
Herod.
Pontius Pilate and Herod. Who's the beast? The apostate church during the time of the tribunals.
The priests.
Annas and Caiaphas. And who's the prophet?
False prophet.
Who's the false prophet that danced in front of Jesus to betray Jesus? Judas. Right? Okay. Yeah. It's the threefold enemy. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Okay. We go to the National Sunday Law. Remember, this is the National Sunday Law, right? Not the Universal Sunday Law, right? Who's the dragon during the time of the National Sunday Law? No, National Sunday Law. National Sunday Law. Who's going to make the Sunday law in America? Who's going to make the law in America? United States, right? The dragon is United States. Who's the beast? No. It's going to be Rome. Rome is going to be the beast. Now, who compels America to join with Rome to make the Sunday law? Is the false prophet, right? Who is the false prophet during the National Sunday Law? Apostate Protestantism, right? Because it's apostate Protestantism who's going to be dancing in front of United States, right? Right. Compelling them to make a law and to join up with Rome to make a Sunday law in the United States. Okay, what about the Universal Sunday Law? All right, okay. Who's the dragon during the time of the Universal Sunday Law? United Nations. Who's the beast? Rome, right?
Papacy.
Right, Rome, papacy. The beast remains the same. The dragon changes, right? The false prophet changes, but the beast remains the same. It's Rome, all right? Rome. And who's the false prophet during the Universal Sunday? Who compels United Nations? Hey, you know what? I already made a Sunday law at my place. Now the world can make a Sunday law. Who compels? Who's the America is the false prophet, right? That's Revelation 13. The same thing over and over and over again. We know these things, and it happens in the time of Nehemiah, at the time of Gideon, the time of Elijah, the time of John the Baptist, the time of Jesus, the time of the 144,000 during the National Sunday Law and the Universal Sunday Law. But they are all going to join at the Battle of Megiddo, where they're going to all lose because they're going to kill each other, right? Right? They're going to all. meet their fate at the sixth plague, right? At the battle of Armageddon, right? Okay. The work is soon to close. The members of the church militant who have proved faithful will become the church triumphant, right? These who have the faith of Jesus, these who have brave, right? These who put the work before their own interest, right? These who have been watching and praying, who with one hand has a sword and the other hand working, right? Will become the church triumphant. In reviewing our past history, having traveled over every step of advance in our present standing, I can say, praise God. As I see what God has wrought, I am filled with astonishment and with confidence in Christ as leader. We have nothing to fear. This is the most famous quote that it's always quoted, right? We have nothing to fear for the future, except as we shall forget the way the Lord has led us and His teaching in our past history, right? The 144,000 will prevail because just like Gideon's army, the 300 prevailed. The 144,000 has the faith of Jesus, right? They're confident in Jesus. The one way is because, the reason is because they are confident in the spirit of prophecy, the testimony of Jesus. If they've seen the fulfillment of prophecy, even from the time of Gideon, the time of Elijah, the time of John the Baptist, the time of Jesus, the time of Nehemiah, right? All these things have been fulfilled as the great events and solemn transactions that will be repeated again and again, right? We see the stories being repeated over and over again so that we know these things are to prepare for us so that we will have the faith of Jesus, right? Okay, so that's the story of the enemies of Nehemiah, right? And that is a more sure word of prophecy.